interference in our elections. I felt this was a message best delivered in person. Spent a great deal of time talking about it, and President Putin may very well want to address it, and very strongly, because he feels very strongly about it, and he has an interesting idea. We also discussed one of the most critical challenges facing humanity, nuclear proliferation. I provided an update on my meeting last month with Chairman Kim on the denuclearization of North Korea, and after today, I am very sure that President Putin and Russia want very much to end that problem, going to work with us, and I appreciate that commitment. The President and I also discussed the scourge of radical Islamic terrorism. Both Russia and the United States have suffered horrific terrorist attacks, and we have agreed to maintain open communication between our security agencies to protect our citizens from this global menace. Last year, we told Russia about a planned attack in St. Petersburg, and they were able to stop it cold. They found them, they stopped them, there was no doubt about it. I appreciated President Putin's phone call afterwards to thank me. I also emphasized the importance of placing pressure on Iran to halt its nuclear ambitions and to stop its campaign of violence throughout the area and throughout the Middle East. As we discussed at length, the crisis in Syria is a complex one. Cooperation between our two countries has the potential to save hundreds of thousands of lives. I also made clear that the United States will not allow Iran to benefit from our successful campaign against ISIS. We have just about eradicated ISIS in the area. We also agreed that representatives from our national security councils will meet to follow up on all of the issues we addressed today and to continue the progress we have started right here in Helsinki. Today's meeting is only the beginning of a longer process, but we have taken the first steps toward a brighter future, and one with a strong dialogue and a lot of thought. Our expectations are grounded in realism, but our hopes are grounded in America's desire for friendship, cooperation, and peace. And I think I can speak on behalf of Russia when I say that also. President Putin, I want to thank you again for joining me for these important discussions and for advancing open dialogue between Russia and the United States. Our meeting carries on a long tradition of diplomacy between Russia, the United States, for the greater good of all. And this was a very constructive day. This was a very constructive few hours that we spent together. It's in the interest of both of our countries to continue our conversation, and we have agreed to do so. I'm sure we'll be meeting again in the future, often, and hopefully we will solve every one of the problems that we discussed today. So, again, President Putin, thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Distinguished presidents, now the journalists would have a chance to ask two questions, two sets of questions each. First, the Russian journalist will ask the question. Please give your affiliation. Good afternoon. My name is Alexei Meshkov, Interfax Information Agency. I have a question to President Trump. During your recent European tour, you've mentioned that the implementation of the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline makes Europe a hostage of Russia, and you suggested that you could free Europe from this by supplying American LNG. But this cold winter actually showed that the current mechanism of supply of fuel to Europe is quite viable. At the same time, as far as I know, US had to buy even Russian gas for Boston. I have a question. The implementation of your idea has a political tinge to it, or is it a practical one? Because there will be a gap formed in the supply and demand mechanism. And the first, it's the consuming countries who will fall into this gap. And the second question, before the meeting with President Putin, you called him an adversary, a rival, and yet you expressed hope that you will be able to bring this relationship to a new level. Did you manage to do this?
No, actually, I called him a competitor, and a good competitor he is. And I think the word competitor is a compliment. I think that we will be competing when you talk about the pipeline. I'm not sure necessarily that it's in the best interests of Germany or not, but that was a decision that they made. We'll be competing. As you know, the United States is now or soon will be, but I think it actually is right now the largest in the oil and gas world. So we're going to be selling LNG, and we'll have to be competing with the pipeline. And I think we'll compete successfully, although there is a little advantage locationally. So I just wish them luck. I mean, I did. I discussed with Angela Merkel in pretty strong tones, but I also know where they're all coming from. And they have a very close source, so we'll see how that all works out. But we have lots of sources now, and the United States is much different than it was a number of years ago when we weren't able to extract what we can extract today. So today we're #1 in the world at that, and I think we'll be out there competing very strongly. Thank you very much.
If I may, I throw in some 2 cents. We talked to Mr. President, including this subject as well. We are aware of the stance of President Trump, and I think that we, as a major oil and gas power, and the United States is a major oil and gas power as well, we could work together on regulation of international markets, because neither of us is actually interested in the plummeting of the prices, and the consumers will suffer as well, and the consumers in the United States will suffer as well, and the shale gas production will suffer, because beyond a certain price bracket, it's no longer profitable to produce gas. But nor we are interested in driving prices up, because it will drain juices, life juices, from all other sectors of the economy, from machine building, etc. So we do have space for cooperation here. That's the first thing. Then about the Nord Stream 2. Mr. President voiced his concerns about the possibility of disappearance of transit through Ukraine, and I reassured Mr. President that Russia stands ready to maintain this transit. Moreover, we stand ready to extend this transit contract that is about to expire next year, in case if the dispute between the economic entities will be settled in the Stockholm Arbitration Court.
The first question from a U.S. journalist goes to Jeff Mason from Reuters.
Thank you. Mr. President, you tweeted this morning that it's U.S. foolishness, stupidity, and the Mueller probe that is responsible for the decline in U.S. relations with Russia. Do you hold Russia at all accountable for anything in particular? And if so, what would you consider them that they are responsible for?
Yes, I do. I hold both countries responsible. I think that the United States has been foolish. I think we've all been foolish. We should have had this dialogue a long time ago. A long time, frankly, before I got to office. And I think we're all to blame. I think that the United States now has stepped forward along with Russia, and we're getting together, and we have a chance to do some great things, whether it's nuclear proliferation in terms of stopping, because we have to do it. Ultimately, that's probably the most important thing that we can be working on. But I do feel that we have both made some mistakes. I think that the probe is a disaster for our country. I think it's kept us apart. It's kept us separated. There was no collusion at all. Everybody knows it. People are being brought out to the fore. So far that I know, virtually none of it related to the campaign. And they're going to have to try really hard to find somebody that did relate to the campaign. That was a clean campaign. I beat Hillary Clinton easily. And frankly, we beat her. And I'm not even saying from the standpoint, we won that race And it's a shame that there can even be a little bit of a cloud over it. People know that, people understand it, but the main thing, and we discussed this also, is zero collusion. And it has had a negative impact upon the relationship of the two largest nuclear powers in the world. We have 90% of nuclear power between the two countries. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous what's going on with the probe.
For President Putin, if I could follow up as well, why should Americans and why should President Trump believe your statement that Russia did not intervene in the 2016 election, given the evidence that U.S. intelligence agencies have provided? And will you consider extraditing the 12 Russian officials that were indicted last week by a U.S. grand jury?
Well, I'm going to let the president answer the second part of that question. But as you know, the whole concept of that came up perhaps a little bit before, but it came out as a reason why the Democrats lost an election, which, frankly, they should have been able to win because the Electoral College is much more advantageous for Democrats, as you know, than it is to Republicans. We won the Electoral College by a lot, 306 to 223, I believe, and that was a well-fought battle. We did a great job. And frankly, I'm going to let the president speak to the second part of your question. But just to say it one time again, and I say it all the time, there was no collusion. I didn't know the president. There was nobody to collude with. There was no collusion with the campaign. And every time you hear all of these, 12 and 14, it's stuff that has nothing to do, and frankly, they admit, these are not people involved in the campaign. But to the average reader out there, they're saying, well, maybe that does. It doesn't. And even the people involved, some perhaps told misstories, although in one case the FBI said there was no lie. There was no lie. Somebody else said there was. We ran a brilliant campaign, and that's why I'm president. Thank you.
As to who is to be believed and to who is not to be believed, you can trust no one if you take this. Where did you get this idea that President Trump trusts me or I trust him? He defends the interests of the United States of America, and I do defend the interests of the Russian Federation. We do have interests that are common. We are looking for points of contact. There are issues where our postures diverge, and we are looking for ways to reconcile our differences, how to make our effort more meaningful. We should not proceed from the immediate political interests that guide certain political powers in our countries. We should be guided by facts. Could you name a single fact that would definitively prove the collusion? This is utter nonsense. Just like the president recently mentioned. Yes, the public at large in the United States had a certain perceived opinion of the candidates during the campaign, but there's nothing particularly extraordinary about it. That's a usual thing. President Trump, when he was a candidate, he mentioned the need to restore the Russia-US relationship, and it's clear that a certain part of American society felt sympathetic about it, and different people could express their sympathy in different ways. But isn't that natural? Isn't it natural to be sympathetic towards a person who is willing to restore the relationship with our country, who wants to work with us? We heard the accusations about the Concord country. Well, as far as I know, this company hired American lawyers, and the accusations doesn't have a fighting chance in the American courts. So there's no evidence when it comes to the actual facts. So we have to be guided by facts and not by rumors. Now, let's get back to the issue of these 12 alleged intelligence officers of Russia. I don't know the full extent of the situation, but the President Trump mentioned this issue, and I will look into it. So far, I can say the following. The things that, off the top of my head, we have an existing agreement between the United States of America and the Russian Federation, an existing treaty that dates back to 1999, the mutual assistance on criminal cases. This treaty is in full effect. It works quite efficiently. On an average, we initiate about 100, 150 criminal cases upon requests from foreign states. For instance, the last year, there was one extradition case upon the request sent by the United States. So this treaty has specific legal procedures. We can offer that the appropriate commission headed by Special Attorney Mueller, he can use this treaty as a solid foundation and send an official request to us so that we would interrogate, we would hold a questioning of these individuals who he believes are privy to some crimes. And our law enforcement are perfectly able to do this questioning and send the appropriate materials to the United States. Moreover, we can meet you halfway, we can make another step. We can actually permit official representatives of the United States, including the members of this very commission headed by Mr. Mueller, we can let them into the country and they will be present at this questioning. But in this case, there is another condition. This kind of effort should be a mutual one. Then we would expect that the Americans would reciprocate and they would question officials, including the officers of law enforcement and intelligence services of the United States, whom we believe who have something to do with illegal actions on the territory of Russia. And we have to request the presence of our law enforcement. For instance, we can bring up Mr. Browder in this particular case. Business associates of Mr. Browder have earned over $1.5 billion in Russia. They never paid any taxes, neither in Russia nor in the United States. And yet the money escaped the country. They were transferred to the United States. They sent a huge amount of money, 400 million, as a contribution to the campaign of Hillary Clinton. Well, that's their personal case. It might have been legal, the contribution itself, but the way the money was earned was illegal. So we have a solid reason to believe that some intelligence officers accompanied and guided these transactions. So we have an interest of questioning them. But we can that could be a first step, and we can also extend it. Options abound, and they all can be found in an appropriate legal framework.
Trump to win the election, and did you direct any of your officials to help him do that?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Because he talked about bringing the U.S.-Russia relationship back to normal.
Продолжаем. Я думаю, вполне вопросы 3 может задать кто-то из российского пула.
I think there can be 3 questions from the Russian pool. Russia Today, you have the floor.
Спасибо большое.
Thank you so much.
Добрый вечер. Меня зовут
Good evening to everyone. My name is Ilya Petrenko,
телеканал RT.
RT TV channel.
For Mr. Trump in English. Mr. President, would you please go into the details of possibly any specific arrangements for the U.S. to work together with Russia in Syria, if any of these kind of arrangements were made today or discussed? И если позволите, Владимир Владимирович, тоже вопрос на
My question to President Putin in Russian. Since we brought up the issue of football several times, I used the football language. Mr. Pompeo mentioned that when we talk about the Syrian cooperation, the ball is in the Syrian court. Mr. Putin, in the Russian court, is it true? And how would you use this fact, the having the ball?
Well, I guess I'll answer the first part of the question. We've worked with Israel long and hard for many years, many decades. I think we've never has any country been closer than we are. President Putin also is helping Israel, and we both spoke with Bibi Netanyahu, and they would like to do certain things with respect to Syria, having to do with the safety of Israel. So in that respect, we absolutely would like to work in order to help Israel, and Israel will be working with us, so both countries would work jointly. And I think that when you look at all of the progress that's been made in certain sections with the eradication of ISIS, we're about 98%, 99% there, and other things that have taken place that we've done, and that, frankly, Russia has helped us with in certain respects. But I think that working with Israel is a great thing, and creating safety for Israel is something that both President Putin and I would like to see very much. One little thing I might add to that is the helping of people. Helping of people, because you have such horrible, if you see, and I've seen reports and I've seen pictures, I've seen just about everything. And if we can do something to help the people of Syria get back into some form of shelter and on a humanitarian basis, and that's what the word was, really, a humanitarian basis, I think that both of us would be very interested in doing that, and we will do that. Okay? Thank you very much.
Excuse me, but for now, no specific agreements, for instance, between the militaries?
Well, our militaries do get along. In fact, our militaries actually have gotten along probably better than our political leaders for years, but our militaries do get along very well, and they do coordinate in Syria and other places. Okay? Thank you.
Yes, we did mention this. We mentioned the humanitarian track of this issue. Yesterday, I discussed this with French President Mr. Macron, and we reached an agreement that together with European countries, including France, we will step up this effort. On our behalf, we provide military cargo aircraft to deliver the humanitarian cargo. And today I brought up this issue with President Trump. I think there is plenty of things to look into. The crucial thing here is that a huge amount of refugees are in Turkey, in Lebanon, in Jordan, in the states that border are adjacent to Syria. If we help them, the migratory pressure upon the European states will be decreased manifold. And I believe it's crucial from any point of view, from humanitarian point of view, from the point of view of helping people, helping the refugees. And in general, I agree, I concur with President Trump. Our military cooperate quite successfully together. They do get along, and I hope they will be able to do so in future. We will keep working in the Astana format, I mean Russia, Turkey, and Iran, which I informed President Trump about. But we do stand ready to link these efforts to the so-called small group of states, so that the process would be a broader one, it would be a multidimensional one, and so that we will be able to maximize our fighting chance to get the ultimate success in the issue of Syria. And speaking about having the ball in our court in Syria, President Trump has just mentioned that we've successfully concluded the World Football Cup. Speaking of the football, actually, Mr. President, I'll give this ball to you, and now the ball is in your court. All the more that the United States will host the World Cup in 2026.
That's right. Thank you very much. We do host it, and we hope we do as good a job. That's very nice. That will go to my son, Barron. We have no question. In fact, Melania, here you go. Okay.
The final question from the United States will go to Jonathan Lemire from the AP.
Thank you. Question for each president. President Trump, yes. You first. Just now, President Putin denied having anything to do with the election interference in 2016. Every U.S. intelligence agency has concluded that Russia did. My first question for you, sir, is who do you believe? My second question is, would you now, with the whole world watching, tell President Putin, would you denounce what happened in 2016, and would you warn him to never do it again?
So let me just say that we have two thoughts. You have groups that are wondering why the FBI never took the server. Why haven't they taken the server? Why was the FBI told to leave the office of the Democratic National Committee? I've been wondering that. I've been asking that for months and months, and I've been tweeting it out and calling it out on social media. Where is the server? I want to know, where is the server, and what is the server saying? With that being said, all I can do is ask the question. My people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be, but I really do want to see the server. But I have confidence in both parties. I really believe that this will probably go on for a while, but I don't think it can go on without finding out what happened to the server. What happened to the servers of the Pakistani gentlemen that worked on the DNC? Where are those servers? They're missing. Where are they? What happened to Hillary Clinton's emails? 33,000 emails gone, just gone. I think in Russia they wouldn't be gone so easily. I think it's a disgrace that we can't get Hillary Clinton's 33,000 emails. So I have great confidence in my intelligence people, but I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today. And what he did is an incredible offer. He offered to have the people working on the case come and work with their investigators with respect to the 12 people. I think that's an incredible offer. Okay? Thank you. Yes, please.
Позвольте мне добавить два слова.
I'd like to add something to
Я
this.
ведь тоже работал в разведке.
After all, I was an intelligence officer myself.
И знаю, как составляются соответствующие досье.
And I do know how dossiers are made up.
Just a minute.
Just a second.
Это первое.
That's the first thing.
Второе.
Now the second thing.
Я считаю Россию демократическим государством.
I believe that Russia is a democratic state.
Не отказываете
And I
в этом
hope you're not
своей стране.
denying
Штатам Америки.
this right to your own country. You're not denying that United States is a democracy. Do you believe United States is a democracy?
А если это так,
And if so,
то
if it is a democratic state,
окончательный вывод
then the final conclusion in this kind of a dispute can only be delivered by a trial, by the court, not by the executive, by the law enforcement.
наших рестораторов,
For instance, the Concord company that was brought up is being accused. It's been accused of interference. But this company does not constitute the Russian state. It does not represent the Russian state. And I brought several examples before.
с большим миллиардным состоянием.
Well, you have a lot of individuals in the United States. Take George Soros, for instance, with multi-billion capitals. But does that make him
Позиция частного лица.
his position, his posture, the posture of the United States? No, it does not.
Vlad's calling out George Soros, terrorist, Antifa funder.
Инстанция.
The issue of trying a case in the court. And the final,
Посмотрим.
the final say
Частных только лиц.
is for the court to deliver.
Уже не государство.
We are now talking about the private, the individuals, and not about particular states. And as far as the most recent allegation is concerned about the Russian intelligence officers, we do have an intergovernmental treaty. Please do send us the request.
Соответствующую работу отменить.
We will analyze it properly and will send a formal response. And as I said, we can extend this cooperation, but we should do it on a reciprocal basis, because we would await our Russian counterparts to provide us access to the persons of interest for us, whom we believe can have something to do with the intelligence service.
Russians want to arrest George Soros.
Issues, and not use the Russia and the U.S. relationship as a loose change for this internal political struggle.
A question for President Putin. Thank you. Two questions for you, sir. Can you tell me what President Trump may have indicated to you about officially recognizing Crimea as part of Russia? And then secondly, sir, does the Russian government have any compromising material on President Trump or his family?
Значит, президента Трампа позиция
President Trump
по-всему известна.
and posture of President Trump on Crimea is well known,
Он говорит о
and he stands firmly by it. He continue to maintain that it was illegal to annex it. Our viewpoint is different. We held a referendum in strict compliance with the UN Charter and the international legislation. For us, this issue, we put paid to this issue. And now to the compromising material. Yeah, I did hear these rumors that we allegedly collected compromising material on Mr. Trump when he was visiting Moscow. Well, distinguished colleague, let me tell you this. When President Trump visited Moscow back then, I didn't even know that he was in Moscow. I treat President Trump with utmost respect. But back then, when he was a private individual, a businessman, nobody informed me that he was in Moscow. Well, let's take St. Petersburg Economic Forum, for instance. There were over 500 American businessmen, the high-ranking, the high-level ones. I don't even remember the last names of each and every one of them. Well, do you remember, do you think that we try to collect compromising material on each and every single one of them? Well, it's difficult to imagine another nonsense of a bigger scale than this. Well, please just disregard these issues and don't think about this anymore again.
And I have to say, if they had it, it would have been out long ago. And if anybody watched Peter Strzok testify over the last couple of days, and I was in Brussels watching it, it was a disgrace to the FBI. It was a disgrace to our country. And you would say that was a total witch hunt. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
A fascinating 40 minutes in a press conference that we've been watching here, both leaders opening with prepared remarks. For his part, Vladimir Putin saying that their meeting was fruitful and successful, but described a complicated global stage, saying there's no solid reason for it. The Cold War is a thing of the past. And then came the questions on election meddling. The question came up repeatedly, Putin calling it so-called interference, saying the Russian state has not and will not interfere with internal U.S. matters. President Trump then insisting there was no collusion, as he has repeatedly for the past year and a half. I did not even know him, referring to Putin. We ran a brilliant campaign, he said, and that is why I am now president. Now, near the end, he's saying that where is the server, referring to the DNC and Hillary Clinton's 30,000 emails. Then Putin was asked about the 12 Russians indicted on Friday by Bob Mueller's team. Putin says he'll look into it, then suggesting Mueller's team contact his government if he wants to pursue it. And then came that bombshell at the end when he was asked whether or not the Russian government has compromising information on President Trump and his family, with the First Lady sitting in the front row. Putin saying he did not even know President Trump when he was in Moscow as a businessman several years ago. President Trump then jumping in there saying if it existed at all, it would already be public. The American president saying today is only the beginning of what will be a long process, and that it will likely be many issues on the table. And with that, we watched the Helsinki summit conclude. Both leaders now leaving shortly, traveling back to their respective capitals.
For both countries having all that animosity,
this station
I give that
continuing coverage
press
on this
conference
story.
by Trump and
Until
Putin,
then, have a good day.
A-.
I'm Bill Hemmer in Helsinki, Finland. And our coverage now continues on Fox News Channel, and my colleague Brett Baer joins me live from Washington, D.C. with his impressions about what we just watched and what we just heard. Brett, good afternoon to you.
Bill, good afternoon. That was quite something. Almost surreal at points, as the president was relitigating the election of 2016 and making the case again that there was no collusion. Saying at one point, asked if he believed his own U.S. intelligence agencies or President Putin on his strong denial, saying that Putin was very strong in his denial and he believed both parties, and then, as you mentioned, wanted to find out where the server was. I think the upside for the administration is that the communication, the dialogue continues. Clearly, the president brought up the interference and the meddling. He brought up sticky issues with Russia. But the way that he dealt with it, defending himself, really not going after President Putin, was pretty interesting to watch, Bill.
And we'll see as detractors take a shot at that. Brett, stand by. I'm going to get back to Sandra because we're going to go inside the room now with more. Sandra, what do you have in New York?
We're going to go straight to John Roberts. He's inside of that briefing room where the two world leaders just wrapped up this bilateral news conference. John, your thoughts?
And Sandra, good evening to you from Helsinki. And it's pretty clear that President Trump came into this meeting wanting to establish a much more friendly relationship with Russia than he had going in. The president saying that relations between the United States and Russia were at their absolute lowest point, but all of that changed about 4 hours ago when we first sat down. And here's an indication of just how far the president wants to go to make sure that he can have a good relationship with Vladimir Putin. When the president was asked whether or not he believed the intelligence agencies or what Vladimir Putin told him about meddling in the election, he completely deflected. The president had told us at a press conference in Brussels during the NATO summit, at a press conference at Chequers in the UK outside of London, that he was going to bring up the issue with Vladimir Putin. He said on Friday, I don't know if I'll have a Perry Mason moment where he sits back and he says, yes, I did it, you've got me. But the president said that he was going to bring it up, and he seemed to be talking from a perspective of, after the indictment of these 12 Russian intelligence agents in the Mueller investigation, he knew that there was some there. Today, he seemed to indicate that there wasn't any there. So I think that he's developed a little bit of an inroad with Putin. Putin has come a little closer to him, and he doesn't want to spoil that with a question about whether or not he believes Putin. It was interesting when Putin said that we have common interests, we also have points of divergence. Better to focus on those points of convergence rather than divergence so that they can work together on some of the thornier issues. We didn't get very far on Crimea and whether or not the president asked Vladimir Putin or told him to get out of Crimea. Putin seems to think that the invasion and annexation of Crimea was perfectly legal. He said they held a referendum on it, but that he knows what President Trump's position on it is. Nuclear weapons, another big issue. No particular movement on that front other than for further dialogue. So critics will look at this and say, nothing came of this except that the president looked like he was cozying up to Vladimir Putin. Supporters of the president will say it was probably a good thing when you consider how bad an adversarial relationship between the United States and Russia could be, that you do open lines of communication, you do open lines of dialogue, you do, as John Huntsman, the U.S. ambassador to Russia, said, reduce the tension in the relationship. So I think we're at the very beginning of this idea of reducing the tension in the relationship, but also pretty clear that in this press conference, President Trump did not want to muck up any progress that he made by saying, well, I believe the intelligence agencies or I believe Putin. So I don't know how well he trod that line, but it was pretty clear at the beginning there, Sandra, that he completely deflected on that question.
John,
Sandra?
Both world leaders touting this as a success when they stepped up to the microphones there. Putin said, I think we can call it a success. He went on to praise President Trump for bringing an attitude of dialogue. Trump then reciprocated and said it went very well. Our relationship has never been worse than it is now. And as you mentioned, he said as of 4 hours ago, that has changed. And now, John, we await reaction in Washington, around the country, and around the world.
Yeah, and I think there's some parallels between this and the Kim Jong-un summit in Singapore a month ago, where the president at his level was trying to break open some dialogue. He was trying to make some advances. But then at the administrative level, all of the screws are still being tightened on North Korea. They haven't let that go at all. And I think we're seeing the same thing here, that at the presidential level, President Trump trying to break open some avenues of dialogue, some ways that the United States and Russia could cooperate. And then at the administrative level, you still have all those sanctions on Russia because of the invasion of Crimea. You still have the diplomats that were expelled from the United States because of the nerve gas poisoning of Sergei Skripal in Salisbury, England. So it's operating on two different levels here, but I think a lot of parallels between this and what happened in Singapore a month ago, Sandra.
That briefing room where things just concluded a few minutes ago. Bill, back to you in Helsinki.
Sandra, a remarkable and fascinating 40 minutes. We were waiting for this moment. We were building to this point. And a reminder to our viewers at home and around the world, Vladimir Putin sits down with Chris Wallace within the hour. And then later, President Trump will talk to Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson. So we're going to get competing visions of what happened here today. With me in Helsinki, back here with Ed Henry, Daniel Hoffman, as well as my colleague Brett Baer in Washington, D.C. Gentlemen, let's start here. Dan, what did you think about what we just heard?
Yeah, let me highlight just two observations. First, that Vladimir Putin wanted to make it clear that only Russia and the United States could solve the major crises of the day, whether it's counterterrorism, counterproliferation, arms control, Syria, North Korea. It's the United States and Russia. He wanted to elevate Russia's status as a great power. In my view, beyond their throw weight, but that was certainly his goal. Secondly is the issue of election meddling. The United States intelligence community has provided, I would argue, totally conclusive proof that the Russians meddled in our election. That issue has not been put to rest by this press conference. President Trump hinted that there might be a cybersecurity working group with the Russians. I'll tell you, from my perspective as an intelligence officer, it's like inviting a criminal to help you solve a crime you know that they committed.
You don't believe in that?
And I would argue that that's, in the long term, for our country and for the Republican Party, not a good thing. I think we should have been harder on the Russians.
You know, your impressions, Ed?
It feels like an NBA game where the last 30 seconds are all that matter, and I'm still trying to process the sort of fast and furious, all the timeouts, the block shots and all the like. And let's not forget what happened in the first quarter real quick. The beginning, Vladimir Putin, rather than making it very positive, with frank and businesslike terms that suggest they had some rough moments in there. It was frank. They went back and forth and talked about negativity and, yeah, we want to turn the corner, but negative. And don't forget, President Trump said this is only the beginning of a long process, which means we were trying to answer the question, are they going to sign anything? Was there a breakthrough? No. If you say it's only the beginning of a long process, nothing happened. Let me get back to the last 30 seconds of the game. I feel like there were two key moments. Brett touched on one of them when he said, the president is pressed by the AP reporter, do you believe the intelligence community or do you believe Putin? And the president's been down this road before and had an opportunity finally to get behind his own intelligence community. He invoked Dan Coats, his director of national intelligence, and instead said, he tells me that, but, you know, Putin was very strong in saying no, so who am I to believe? That's really, it seems like, going to backfire on him. And the second point, I lost my breath for a second there when I hear Vladimir Putin say, as a KGB guy, I know a in about intelligence and dossiers. The dirty dossier, folks. That opened the door. It gave the president a little bit cover in the moment, because it was basically saying, remember those dirty FBI agents, remember, Fusion GPS. He invoked that, which was remarkable. But then it kind of backfired, perhaps, because then the AP reporter comes back and says, well, you're talking about the dossier. Do you have dirt on the president? You got the first lady sitting in the front row. I thought that was just a stunning moment.
Vladimir Putin saying, I hope we can get to understand each other better toward the end of his prepared remarks. When you bring in Brett now, what do you reflect on now, Brett, after the what I consider a fascinating 40 minutes here in Helsinki?
Yeah, if you want to call it an NBA game, that was a championship one, because there was a lot to digest. You had a reporter ask, did you want Donald Trump to win the election? And Putin says, yes, I wanted him to win because of his policies. Due to President Trump, do you hold Russia accountable for anything? His answer, we're all to blame. Remember, this is an American president standing in the summit in Helsinki with really an adversary that the U.S. intelligence community believes is doing a lot of bad things. Clearly, the president wants to score points and to try to make a relationship that handles Syria and other big issues of the day, but he wanted to find a way out of that answer, even though he was asked it numerous times. Separating the difference between his election win and Russian interference in the election is a difficult thing rhetorically, I think, for this president, because a lot of times it's about him.
Well, and he clearly doesn't want the victory to be taken away from him, or to suggest that he did not work harder than Hillary Clinton. And he has said that repeatedly, Brett, that he won the election, in his view, fair and square, and no meddling changed any votes across America.
Here's what's going to be fascinating, is Chris Wallace will have a lot of fodder from this news conference for questions with the Russian president. And we're hoping we'll be able to air all of it in its entirety on Special Report. We'll see how the timing works out, but you'll see all of it here on Fox News Channel. And that will be fascinating, one-on-one with the Russian president.
No doubt. President Trump saying we're going to have to find a way to work together. We'll see where we go after Helsinki. Back here live in a moment, but Sandra has more now in New York. Sandra?
Thanks, Bill. Let's bring in Mary Kissel, editorial board member of the Wall Street Journal and a Fox News contributor. Mary, you joined us before the press conference, and now you are after. Your take?
I think it was a classic performance by Vladimir Putin, Sandra. At times flattering President Trump, and at other times trying really to rewrite reality and to manipulate and divert the world's attention from what he himself has done. I was particularly concerned in the comments over Syria, where he suggested that there are overlapping interests there. In fact, he said we have a lot of mutual interests in areas of cooperation. That's simply not the case. Russia's objectives are very, very different in the Middle East and elsewhere than the United States is. And I think it was telling to hear President Trump talk about the humanitarian situation on the ground in Syria and to hear President Putin frame it in a strategic way. Putin is changing the facts on the ground through military intervention, and the idea that he wants to cooperate with us there in Ukraine or anywhere else is simply a fantasy. I think it was great that President Trump did not give ground on Crimea, but I think that the president came off as, wanting to have more meetings and going to Putin and asking for Putin's help, when really we should be in that position of having Putin coming to us and asking us to ease up on him. So, look, it could have been worse, but again, you can't believe anything that comes out of Putin's mouth. And when he talks about shared interests and cooperation, you have to be suspicious of it.
What would you say is the headline that comes out of this this meeting and the news conference that followed, Mary?
I think, unfortunately, it's that President Putin scored a great propaganda victory by standing up with President Trump on that stage, especially some of the conciliatory language that Trump used toward him. And I think that nothing was really achieved here beyond promising to meet again. And again, the conciliatory language, I think, is concerning, Sandra.
President Vladimir Putin said Moscow, Washington could cooperate in stabilizing the world's energy market. When it came to that, as far as major nuclear powers, President Putin saying we, Russia and the United States, bear special responsibility for maintaining international security. And President Trump followed by saying if we're going to solve many of the world's problems facing our world, find ways to cooperate in ways of shared interests. So, Mary, they both made it very clear this was the beginning of what will be ongoing talks between the two leaders.
But, Sandra, shared interest in solving problems that Vladimir Putin has created by invading Ukraine and by helping Assad commit war crimes in Syria, and also by trying to shut off energy supplies to Ukraine, which he's done a couple of times, and building a pipeline in Germany, and building nuclear plants in Egypt and elsewhere to give him control over regional energy supplies. Where is the evidence that we can trust Putin to follow through on what he says? I really don't see any evidence of that, Sandra.
All right, we'll continue to watch how all this plays out. Reaction is already pouring in. Mary Kissel from the Wall Street Journal editorial board, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Bill?
A lot of reaction to that, too. The former CIA Director John Brennan just sending out a note a moment ago on Twitter. This is what he said. And this press conference, for the detractors of President Trump, they will not be dissuaded at all. John Brennan writing, Donald Trump's press conference performance in Helsinki rises to and exceeds, he writes, the threshold of high crimes and misdemeanors. It was nothing short of treasonous. Not only were Trump's comments imbecilic, he is wholly in the pocket of Putin, Republican patriots. Where are you? That from John Brennan a moment ago. Back with Ed and Dan and Brett in a moment as we watch the scene outside the presidential palace here in Helsinki. And gentlemen, John Brennan has started the train against this president yet again.
Yeah, somebody probably should have proofread John Brennan's tweet before he sent it. I have a feeling he probably just sat and wrote it out and maybe didn't think twice before he sent it.
He's done this before,
yes,
and he's
he
been very aggressive against his president. And while I don't think it was the president's best performance, to take it to the level of treason and high crimes, whoa, hold your horses. I mean, this is a bit extreme. not a bit extreme, very extreme, number one. Number two, I think John Brennan has been sending out these tweets in part because as the president tried at this news conference and has done before to shift some of the focus to the FBI and the CIA under Barack Obama and what was done with FISA warrants and the like, and John Brennan may have some things to answer for. So let's look at it through that lens as well. However, he makes a point that this president kind of whiffed on, frankly, at this news conference, which, as Brett pointed out at the top, you've been pointing out, he had multiple opportunities to call Vladimir Putin out for election interference. The best I see is that he said at one point to the Reuters question, both have made mistakes, meaning the U.S. and Russia. So the most gentle criticism of Putin, he's made mistakes. But then later, of course, as we've already pointed out, said, you know, he tells me he didn't interfere, and who am I to believe?
Going back
that
to the comments from President Trump, he said, I thought it was a message that was best delivered in person. Gentlemen, and we'll find out through Sean and Tucker's interview what that message was, perhaps. Gentlemen, stand by. Brett, stand by in Washington. It is 7:15 in the evening here in Helsinki, Finland. The light's going to be out for at least 5 more hours. It's that time of the year, and these two world leaders are inside the presidential palace getting ready to say goodbye to Finland in a matter of moments. So our coverage will continue. Don't leave. In a moment, much more analysis and a lot more reaction, not just here, but in Moscow and Washington, D.C., and around the world. As I said earlier, this is a historic Monday in Helsinki, Finland, and we are just getting started. Back in a moment.
This program is brought to you by Lear Capital.
Why do experts believe silver could rise to $100 an ounce? Because according to a recent Forbes report, global demand for solar energy is going through the roof. China is leading the way with plans to build 100 of these massive solar farms. China's rising silver demand alone could equal nearly half of silver's annual production. California is next, requiring new homes to have solar power by 2020. The whole world is going solar, and without silver, there would be no solar. That's why experts are now making the case for silver at $100 an ounce. If you'd like to learn more, call Lear Capital for this free report, Sky High Silver. See why rising demand for solar in China, California, and around the world could soon drive silver prices to $100 an ounce. Get the free report and see for yourself why silver could be your best investment this year. Call 1-800-885-5100. 1-800-885-5100.
Welcome.
Hi there.
So what do you look for in a vehicle?
Sleek designs.
Performance.
Dependability is top on my list.
Well, then here's some vehicles that deliver on that.
Whoa.
Oh, geez.
That's our truck.
It's our truck.
And they're our cars.
That's my Chevy.
Chevy's the only brand to have earned J.D. Power Dependability Awards across cars, trucks, and SUVs 3 years in a row.
Awesome and proud.
You know, it's like a dynasty. It's impressive.
Jean woke up with knee pain, but she's got work to do. So she took a leave this morning. If she'd taken another pain reliever, she'd be stopping for more pills by now. Only Aleve has the strength to stop tough pain for up to 12 hours with just one pill. Tylenol can't do that. Get all-day minor arthritis pain relief with an easy open cap.
Managing blood sugar is a series of smart choices. And when you replace one meal or snack a day with Glucerna, made with Carb Steady to help minimize blood sugar spikes, you can really feel it. Now with 30% less carbs and sugars. Glucerna.
I'll never find a safe used car.
Start at the new Carfax.com.
Show me minivans with no reported accidents.
Boom.
Love it. Show me the Carfax.
Start your used car search at the all-new Carfax.com.
Give summer barbecues a gourmet upgrade with Omaha Steaks. Get a never-seen-before Omaha Steaks offer. The Summer Grilling Package worth $202 for the combo price of just $49.99. That's 75% off with this limited-time offer. Every order is 100% money-back guaranteed with steaks, sides, dessert, and more. 4 filet mignon, 4 boneless pork chops, 4 boneless chicken breasts, 4 potatoes au gratin, 4 Omaha Steaks burgers, and 4 caramel apple tartlets. Right now, your order will include 4 classic juicy Omaha Steaks burgers free. And you'll get a special sample of Omaha Steaks signature seasoning. Your order will be delivered to your door or anywhere you choose. Search Summer 49 on omahasteaks.com today to get the Summer Grilling Package, a $202 value for just $49.99 on this special offer. Enjoy the best backyard grilling ever or give it as a gift with Omaha Steaks. Search Summer 49 on omahasteaks.com to order today.
United States President Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin of Russia just finishing up that news conference, Bill, and now we have the rest of the day to see reaction to it, and surely we will see that. The president saying they had direct, open, deeply productive talks, and now the day to respond, and a lot of big interviews right here on this network coming up.
No question. That's right. That was stage 3, I'll call it. Stage 4 is still to come, and that's when Vladimir Putin and President Trump both talked to the Fox News channel. So to our viewers, hang on. We got a lot more coming for.
Fox News Alert. The landmark summit between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin just wrapped up in Helsinki, both of them declaring an event success when they stepped up to the lecterns, each after meeting privately for more than 2 hours and participating in a working lunch alongside their closest advisors. Next step, their exit point. We'll show it to you live as it happens. This is Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner. Here today, Melissa Francis, former Director of Strategic Communications for Hillary Clinton, Adrian Elrod. Clinton's name came up a few times. Host of Kennedy on the Fox Business Network, Kennedy herself. And joining us in the center seat, Brian Kilmeade, co-host of Fox and Friends and host of the nationally syndicated Brian Kilmeade Show on Fox News Radio. Outnumbered today,
yes.
And you are perched with notes. I know you're ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a fascinating press conference that took place. First off, on the body language, I thought that was the happiest. He's not known to be a happy guy. Vladimir Putin never was. He walked out kind of happy, going out of his way to talk about a relationship that went here, that the Cold War is over, looking to turn the page. I feel as though we factored him into our political process. We were talking about the issues of the dossier. We were talking about the issues of his 12 members of the
He brought up the dossier.
Right.
Or the word dossier.
Yeah, and most of the questions were about that. I thought that Vladimir Putin got a lot out of it. I think that Donald Trump will get as much out of it as we gain from it in the future weeks to come. Are we going to start working with each other or continuing to work against each other?
You talked about turning the page. I'm going to turn the page and start the show.
Let's do it.
You ready? Let's do it. A lot to get at. Brian, set us up. The world watching today as President Trump held his first official summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Helsinki. The men said they talked about a host of subjects, including election meddling, something President Trump had promised he would address during their discussions. Watch it.
During today's meeting, I addressed directly with President Putin the issue of Russian interference in our elections. I felt this was a message best delivered in person. Spent a great deal of time talking about it, and President Putin may very well want to address it, and very strongly, because he feels very strongly about it, and he has an interesting idea.
Chief White House correspondent John Roberts is live in Helsinki in the room, and now we can go back and forth about what that was like. John, let's just start with kind of the tone and tenor of these two men as they came together.
Well, you know, the first time that we saw them together was in Hamburg, Germany, literally a year ago at the G20 summit. There was a real chill in the room. There was no question about that. When the two of them met on the sidelines, and really was just a handshake and a quick conversation at the APEC conference in Da Nang, Vietnam, back in November, it seemed to be a little bit warmer relationship. Today, I don't want to say that they came out looking like they were best buds or even friends, but I think there was definitely a thaw in the relationship. Both of these leaders came into this summit that we were told by John Huntsman, the U.S. ambassador to Russia, don't call it a summit, it's only a meeting. Whatever you want to call it, a summit or a meeting, they both came into it looking for something, and that was to improve the relationship between the United States and Russia. You heard Vladimir Putin say in response to a question from one of my colleagues, did you want President Trump to win the election? He said yes, because he had talked about changing the U.S.-Russia relationship. This was the first time that the two had an opportunity to sit down in the room together for any appreciable length of time in the past year. There's been a lot of things that have happened since then, but it was clear that they both want, Harris, to improve the relationship. Vladimir Putin saying that they have points of divergence in the relationship, but they also have points where they come together, and better to focus on those points of convergence than what separates the two countries. Harris?
Stunning moments, just stunning moments, John. So many of them. When the president said that he was going to choose diplomacy over politics, that was an interesting back and forth that he had just based on, you know, you can do one or the other. He chooses one over the other.
Yeah, I think the way he phrased it, if I remember correctly, was he is not going to play politics and risk, or he's going to put aside politics to pursue peace. He doesn't want to potentially ruin peace for the sake of politics. And what we saw here today, I think, very much parallels what we saw in his meetings with Kim Jong-un of North Korea in Singapore a month ago, where at the presidential level, he is all about establishing a relationship. He's all about dialing down the temperature. He's all about the possibility of deals for the future. And then at the administrative level, we see a much different posture. With North Korea, we see those very tight sanctions on North Korea. We see the White House putting pressure on nations in the region and around the world to put the screws to North Korea to bring them to the table. Same thing here with Russia. You see the president in private and in his expanded bilateral meetings with Vladimir Putin talking about the possible, talking about the ways that the United States can get along, talking about the shared interests that they could work together on. And then at the administrative level, you still have those sanctions on Russia over the annexation of Crimea. You still have the diplomats expelled over the nerve gas attack against Sergei Skripal in Salisbury, England. So the president very much playing the role of the peacemaker here, trying to thaw the ice, trying to break off some chips on the rocky relationship between these two countries and try to put things on a smoother path. Now, his critics are going to rip him for cozying up to Russia. There's no question about that. We're already hearing that from John Brennan, Nancy Pelosi, and other people. But for the president, he came into the Helsinki meeting, summit, whatever you want to call it, wanting to improve the relationship, and it looks like he's on the road to do that.
Real quickly before I let you go, the point in the conversation where it turned to the investigation here at home into collusion by Robert Mueller. And President Putin saying that Mueller can interview the 12 military intel officers and they can come here. And what to make of that, John? You were in the room.
You know, I don't know much about that treaty, and I do not have any particular insight into the Mueller investigation because he has kept his cards very close to his vest. But I don't think it's the sort of offer that the Mueller investigation will take Vladimir Putin up on, because Putin said that it would be Russian investigators who would be interrogating these suspects, and U.S. law enforcement could sit in. Now, that could be the fine points and conditions of that treaty, but it doesn't seem to me to be the sort of thing that Mueller might want to take up. Now, there are some people who might say it's because Mueller doesn't want to know the truth. I can't speak to that, but I mean, it was an interesting offer that the president thought was something that might be worthwhile pursuing, but I would be highly suspect about Mueller wanting to get involved in that.
Very interesting. I mean, it seemed to be an attention getter at the moment. It certainly caught people by, surprise, at least watching out here wider outside the room. John Roberts, great work as always. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Harris.
All right, so you heard John there talking about how the president has kind of talked about Vladimir Putin along the way. Here's the latest way that he described him. Watch this.
I called him a competitor, and a good competitor he is. And I think the word competitor is a compliment. I think that we will be competing when you talk about the pipeline. I'm not sure necessarily that it's in the best interests of Germany or not, but that was a decision that they made. We'll be competing. As you know, the United States is now, or soon will be, but I think it actually is right now the largest in the oil and gas world. So we're going to be selling LNG, and we'll have to be competing with the pipeline. And I think we'll compete successfully.
Brian Kilmeade on the couch with us today. The president calling Putin a competitor.
He is. He also said, you know, I have a lot of foes. That was the controversial statement he made to Jeff Glor. You know, is the EU a foe? He goes, no, we're competitors, but sometimes we can be a foe when it comes to trade. I think there's no doubt about it. They're competitors. The question is, Vladimir Putin went out of his way to say the Cold War is over. So President Trump is right to not say, you know, say what President Obama and President Bush have said, that the Cold War is over. So I have no problem with that. I guess what everyone's going to focus on is what we're going to talk about shortly, and that is the president not condemning him for the 12 officials in their Defense Department that they say meddled in the election.
I want to grab this tweet by Senator Lindsey Graham. I know you retweeted it. You want to share it?
Well, no, I mean, there's a couple. He says there's a missed opportunity by President Trump to firmly hold Russia accountable for 2016 meddling and deliver a strong warning regarding the future. He said, finally, if it were me, I'd check the soccer ball for listening devices. President Putin gave President Trump a soccer ball. Here's what I would say about all this, though. You have to view what he's saying outside the room as a PR campaign, I would think, by the president to send a message to Vladimir Putin. We don't know what happened inside the room. We don't know how tough he was there. And we know...
You mean when they met privately?
Yes, we don't know what he said.
This is a room, but it was a different room.
Right, exactly. Inside a room privately, and we don't know what he said there. And again, it's words versus actions. You want to see what he does. I know everybody's going to make a big deal out of the idea that they feel like he was too soft in that meeting, and that's just a small piece of the puzzle.
We're going to get more on, but before we head into the break, I want to hear from everybody. Kennedy?
Well, I think this whole thing is very curious because I'm wondering what the president's motivation is. I hope that he was tough on him in the room. I hope he was as tough on him as he has been with the leaders of Canada and France and the UK. You know, he's very good when his anger is focused and there's something structurally that he wants to extract from it. We actually saw that with NATO. He wants other countries to contribute more of a percentage of their GDP to the defense alliance. That's fine. What do we want from Russia? I don't think it's appropriate to appease them. I don't trust Russia. I think they're systemically corrupt from their government to their athletics.
Corrupt.
And,
yes.
Yes.
All right. Adrian, when we come back from the break, I'll come to you. For right now, be sure to keep it right here. Chris Wallace will sit down one-on-one with Vladimir Putin for an exclusive interview. Chris will get the Russian president's take on his meeting with President Trump and what it all means going forward. Some of the things they talked about today, I know, that caught us by surprise, at least in topic. Growing reaction to President Trump's landmark meeting with Russian leader Vladimir Putin today in Helsinki. What lawmakers are now saying about the president's performance, and how did the president handle demands to ask Putin to extradite those 12 Russian officials Special Counsel Robert Mueller has indicted? That happened on Friday for Russian election meddling. We'll talk about all of it. Stay close.
Your brain changes as you get older, but Prevagen helps your brain with an ingredient originally discovered in jellyfish. In clinical trials, Prevagen has been shown to improve short-term memory. Prevagen, healthier brain, better life.
No matter who rides point, there are over 10,000 Allstate agents riding sweep. Call one today. Are you in good hands?
Introducing the brand new South Beach Diet. I'm Jesse James Decker, and if y'all want to know how I stay in shape, I do it with the South Beach Diet.
Lose up to 9 pounds and 3 inches overall in your first 2 weeks. Order your 28-day plan today with fully prepared meals delivered to your door. Breakfast, lunches, dinners, even snacks.
I lost 38 pounds.
It's safe and healthy weight loss, easy to follow, and it works.
I lost 30 pounds on the South Beach Diet.
South Beach is a low-carb, low-sugar, high-protein program that burns fat and transforms your metabolism.
I lost 24 pounds.
Order your 28-day plan right now and receive a week of our all-new South Beach Complete Shakes free. They're packed with 20 grams of protein, no added sugar, a great source of probiotics, vitamins, and they taste great. Call or go online in the next 2 minutes and we'll even throw in free FedEx shipping. Lose up to 9 pounds and 3 inches overall in your first 2 weeks.
Trust me, the South Beach Diet works. Call or click right now.
Call 888-751-FIRM or go to southbeachdiet.com and get 1 week of shakes free.
The sun used to make our outdoor deck and patio space so hot and uncomfortable we couldn't use it.
But then we discovered the Sunsetter retractable awning. Our Sunsetter retractable awning opens and closes in just 60 seconds.
It keeps our patio about 20 degrees cooler.
It provides instant shade and instant protection from the sun's harmful rays.
And our sunsetter costs under $700.
But now you can get your sunsetter for as little as $599 when you call now to get this special $200 discount certificate.
We love our sunsetter retractable awning, and you're going to love yours too. It transforms your outdoors from sweltering sun to shady oasis in only seconds.
Call now for this free awning idea kit packed with great awning solutions that will let you enjoy your deck or patio much more often this summer. Plus, get this $200 discount certificate that will bring you your sunsetter for as little as $599.
But this is a limited time offer. Call now.
Sunsetter retractable awnings are assembled in America and are guaranteed to last for years.
And talk about extras. You can choose from motorized awnings for push-button opening and closing, or choose screened-in models for bug-free outdoor living, all for just a bit more.
No wonder Sunsetter is America's best-selling retractable awning.
Call now to get the whole Sunsetter story. You'll get this free awning idea kit with DVD plus a $200 discount certificate, and there's no obligation.
Hundreds of thousands of families own and love their Sunsetter retractable awnings. We're one of them, and you should be too.
Stay cooler and enjoy your deck or patio much more often.
And do it all at $200 off if you call now.
Call now for your free awning idea kit with local dealer info and $200 discount certificate. Life is better under a Sunsetter. Call now and save.
Call 1-800-240-3123. 1-800-240-3123.
Dreaming of a better night's sleep? Your dreams come true with the lacrosse comforter from thecompanystore.com. Assembled in America and available in 4 comfort weights. Our hypoallergenic down or down alternative comforters have a pure cotton shell, and a sewn-through box construction regulates body temperature, so you're never too hot or too cold. Starting at just $99, including shipping and a lifetime guarantee. For your best friend, our dog beds are just as dreamy and made with the same attention to quality. Thecompanystore.com. We're all about comfort.
President Trump's summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin coming just days after Special Counsel Robert Mueller indicted 12 Russian intelligence officers for attempting to meddle in the 2016 presidential election, hacking DNC emails, that causing some to call for the commander-in-chief to request that President Putin turn over those and other indicted Russians to the United States. President Putin today saying that the American president did bring up the issue during their closed-door meeting and that he will look into it. Prior to today's summit, Republican Congressman Trey Gowdy said it should be a priority.
Your first request of Vladimir Putin needs to be, tell us which airport we can pick up the 25 Russians that tried to interfere with the fundamentals of our democracy.
But National Security Advisor John Bolton had argued that pressing the Russian president on the issue would be just a waste of time.
I think it's pretty silly for the president to demand something that he can't get legally. And this is a very serious matter. You know, the Russians take the position, you can like it or not like it, that their constitution forbids them to extradite Russian citizens. I think for the president to demand something that isn't going to happen puts the president in a weak position.
Adrian, what do you think about that? I mean, there is a point to that, to demand something that he's not going to do and is in their constitution. Doesn't he just look weak?
Look, I would say that I never thought I would agree with Trey Gowdy on something, but I couldn't agree with him more. Donald Trump just said on a national stage in front of the international community with Vladimir Putin that he believes Putin over our entire intelligence community in terms of what happened with the Russian hacking into our election process and influencing our election process. That is unbelievable. That changes the entire dynamic of our relationship with Russia. It changes the entire dynamic of where we are on a national stage. Look, Putin is a trained KGB officer, right? Like, let's not forget, he knows exactly how to play Trump. He knows exactly what he's doing. But again, the fact that, forget that this is even Trump, by the way, the fact that this is an American president who stood up on a national stage in front of an entire international community and basically said, hey, all these intelligence committees, all of this intelligence that we have in the United States, proving that Russia influenced our election, forget it. I believe you, Vladimir Putin. It's absolutely unbelievable.
Do you think he really believes Vladimir Putin, or do you think this is what he's saying in this setting and doesn't matter?
I don't think there's any way he can believe Vladimir Putin. The truth is, it's not even out there. It's in there. It's right there, and it's so obvious. And he is corrupt. But the question is, where do we go from here? And perhaps the president is looking at a way of maximizing this moment and creating more prosperity. Russia's economy absolutely sucks. Vladimir Putin wants more money. He wants the sanctions lifted. It is this whole thing is it's propped up by cronyism and these billionaires who have enriched themselves off of Russian energy and the very few sectors that they have that are operating positively. They want more money. They want the spigot back on. The only way that Russia can screw with us is by hacking, by putting 25 people in the room. It's really the last stand that they've got. So I would like to see the president be more forceful. I would also like the president to lay out a strategy for what the United States gets from this and how we benefit.
I would add this. The President of the United States, even though it drives people crazy, every time you bring up Russian hacking the election, he looks at it as it's making him illegitimate as a president. He won the election because the Russians meddled. And if he turns around and goes, yeah, you meddled, he feels as though the blowback's going to be, and I told you weren't legitimately elected. And my analogy would be, can you imagine if George Bush was asked almost every single day about his 500-vote win in Florida through his first 2 years in office? After a while, even Bush 43 would say, hey, enough already. I am the president. Every time you bring up the problem you have with Florida, you're making me look illegitimate. And still he had waited 4 years for some people to understand that he actually deserved to be president. And Al Gore, to his credit, got out of the way. Hillary Clinton, to her discredit, never does.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. So how do we go forward, as Kennedy has said? Because we need to move the ball, because they're going to mess with us again. So are China and all these other countries that want to mess with us.
Can I ask you something very quickly? Why are we talking about cybersecurity? I mean, we're caught up in the histrionics and some of the most dramatic elements in the cult of personality on both sides. Why aren't we talking about practical solutions like cybersecurity? And, if we're so curious as to how Russia compromised, tried to compromise and influence the election, why didn't the FBI take control of those DNC servers?
Okay. We have a lot more to discuss, clearly, but we got to squeeze in a quick break here. In the meantime, Democrats were howling for the president to cancel his summit with Putin in the wake of the new Mueller indictment. So did the president make the right call? We're going to debate that when we come back.
New Day USA has helped thousands of veterans get the money they need for their family and home.
Thank you, Admiral.
By helping them use the valuable VA home loan benefit they've earned with their service.
Thank you, Admiral.
It lets you borrow up to 100% of your home's value.
Thank you, Admiral.
With today's high home values, that could mean a lot more money to pay debts and get ahead.
Thank you, Admiral.
It's an honor to help you get the peace of mind that every veteran and their family deserves.
Call 1-844-383-1575.
Hi, I'm Barry Sloan with NewTek, your business solutions company. Does your business need money? Whether you need $10,000 or $10 million, you can count on NewTek, the nation's largest non-bank government-guaranteed lender. NewTek can help your business expand and grow. With a simple phone interview, we can pre-qualify you in just 48 hours. And with rates as low as 6%, you can see why so many businesses turn to NewTek. To see how easy getting a loan can be, contact NewTek, your business solutions company, today.
Welcome to Tide Pods Talk with Gronk. I'm Gronk. I'm big and awesome, but this guy is little. Can it really clean? Heck yeah, it can. It's concentrated detergent plus stain fighters plus odor fighters that fight for clean. Boom! Ugh. Even this entire bottle can't beat Tide Pods. And now a word from future Gronk. Ugh. Tide Pods. If it's clean, it's got to be Tide.
This is a whole different ballgame.
Can't believe it's Shark Week.
I'm not afraid of anything.
I think I just peed myself. I never had my heart beat like that.
Shark Week on Discovery. Check your local listings.
When it's crunch time and you really need your Social Security disability benefits, call a name you know and trust. Binder and Binder.
We'll deal with the government. You have enough to worry about.
1-800-4BINDER.
Hi, I'm Annette and I'm an actress. Under eye bags and wrinkles are so frustrating. I came across Plexiderm and I was so excited. We have a model, his name is Richie, and all he's doing is taking a small amount. It's so powerful, that's all it takes. It literally creates an invisible layer that tightens the skin and smooths it out. All you do is gently rub it underneath your eyes, on your fine lines and wrinkles, and it visibly disappears in as little as 10 minutes.
Hi guys, my name is Sandy Marinese. I'm a professional hair and makeup artist, and one of the #1 question that I always get is, can you make me look younger? We had a few people that we applied it to, and some of them, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna work. And I was so impressed how well it really worked. Now I could really say to people, yes, I can make you look younger.
The videos that you see are real. Those are the results you can expect to see. Get Plexiderm for up to 50% off, plus get free shipping. Order yours at plexiderm.com or call the number on your screen.
Hi, I'm William Devane. You've heard me talk about how smart it is to buy gold, but do you know what else is smart? Silver. There's a growing global demand for silver, so don't miss out. I buy my silver from Roslyn Capital. Buying silver has been an important way to accumulate wealth for thousands of years and a great way to start investing. There are silver coins, silver bars, and even full bags of silver, and Roslyn has them all. And with Roslyn, you're always guaranteed the best prices, the fastest shipping, and best customer service around. I like that, and you will too. So when it comes to buying gold or silver, call Roslyn Capital.
Call now for your free gold, silver, and IRA transfer kits. And for a limited time, Roslyn is offering a $1,000 discount free to qualifying new customers. Call 800-630-8900. 800-630-8900. 800-630-8900.
Nothing would be easier politically than to refuse to meet, to refuse to engage, but that would not accomplish anything. As president, I cannot make decisions on foreign policy in a futile effort to appease partisan critics or the media or Democrats who want to do nothing but resist and obstruct.
President Trump talking up the need for diplomacy after his summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin and pushing back against Democrats who'd been calling on the president to cancel the summit after special counsel Robert Mueller indicted 12 Russian officials Friday for alleged cyber attacks on the DNC. Just hours before the summit, Hillary Clinton tweeting, "Great World Cup," like she watched. Question for President Trump as he meets Putin, do you know which team you play for? Kinky. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer tweeting for President Trump to meet with President Putin without expressing the outrage of the American people and securing real progress would be terrible for the U.S. and the security of our election system. But Republican Congressman John Ratcliffe suggesting Democrats' objections are politically motivated. Watch.
Someone needs to remind Senator Schumer that the party in the minority doesn't get to set and make foreign policy decisions. The real reason that Senator Schumer and other Democrats don't want Donald Trump to sit down with Vladimir Putin tomorrow is the same reason they didn't want Donald Trump to sit down with Kim Jong-un last month. They're afraid he'll succeed.
Nancy Pelosi tweeting, Donald Trump had the opportunity to stand up to Putin today, less than 72 hours after DOJ indicted 12 additional Russian officials for attacking the 2016 elections. He blames both countries. Hashtag blame America first, hashtag Trump Putin. Do you stand with Nancy?
Absolutely, I do. I mean, I stand with, by the way, there's a lot of Republicans who don't think that Trump should have had this meeting as well, especially in light of the Mueller indictments that came out less than 100 hours from when this meeting actually took place. Look, again, Donald Trump had the opportunity to go on in front of the world stage and condemn Vladimir Putin for what he and the Russians allowed to happen on our election. The fact that he did not, and by the way, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican standing on that stage, the fact that the President of the United States did not condemn Russia and Putin for this behavior, and by the way, and believe Putin.
What is there to condemn? He didn't do anything to the election.
A reset button? I mean, is that the right way to confront Vladimir Putin? I mean, Vladimir Putin has been acting this way the entire time that he's been around.
Which is why we shouldn't have. Why we shouldn't even be engaging with him right now?
For you to say that was the appropriate metered response. If you'd stood up there and said, listen, you bastard, we are going to rain hellfire all over your economy if you continue with this nonsense.
I think if he said something that was very forceful, that was taken very seriously, and the first words out of his mouth were
accused him of starting World War III.
We absolutely condemn on behalf of the United States government. I condemn what you and the Russians did to our democracy, the fact that you influenced our democracy to the detriment of essentially Hillary Clinton. And we will not have diplomatic relations with you in any way, shape, or form until you rectify the situation and promise to never do this again.
I want to ask you something specific here, because the timing of the release of the new indictments is very curious and almost seems to be from the Justice Department and the intelligence community forcing the president's narrative. Do you think there was something curious about?
Well, there's no doubt about it. Timing matters, because I have no idea why we're getting this report little by little. It never happened with Ken Starr. It didn't happen with the Valerie Plame situation. It's bizarre. However, I think it works to the president's helping the president, because now instead of saying my opinion against your opinion, this is pretty hardcore stuff. Yep. And that's what I think happened one-on-one. I will say this, Devin Nunes had that information out of the House. No one looked at it. He even told the page in which he listed all 12 of those people.
All right.
And they never mentioned the RNC was hacked too.
Well, I'm going to mention that we have more outnumbered in just a moment. You stay right here.
All right, I brought in new Max Protein. To give you the protein you need, with less of the sugar you don't. I'll take that.
30 grams of protein and 1 gram of sugar. New Ensure Max Protein and 2 great flavors. From only the thickest, juiciest Heinz tomatoes, no one grows ketchup like Heinz.
Hi, I'm Joan London with A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. For the past 5 years, I've spoken with hundreds of families and visited senior care communities around the country. And I've got to tell you, today's senior living communities are better than ever. These days, there are amazing amenities like movie theaters, exercise rooms and swimming pools, public cafes, bars and bistros, even pet care services. And nobody understands your options like the advisors at A Place for Mom. These are local expert advisors that will partner with you to find the perfect place and determine the right level of care, whether that's just a helping hand or full-time memory care. Best of all, it's a free service. There is never any cost to you. Senior living has never been better, and there's never been an easier way to get great advice. Call today. A Place for Mom. You know your family. We know senior living. Together, we'll make the right choice.
President Trump on Hannity. In his first interview after meeting with Putin, he breaks down the critical discussion with Sean. The must-see sit-down. Tonight, only on Hannity.
Imagine one day to get the summer-ready body you've always wanted. Imagine one day to a slimmer waist, toner arms, and thinner thighs. One day isn't someday, it's now. Sonobello, America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist, can help you lose fat and transform your body in as little as one day.
Absolutely, the next day you see the results. 100%, I wish I would have done it sooner.
Using advanced microlaser technology, our experienced board-certified plastic surgeons can target multiple problem areas in just one day. Call 888-317-1425 for your free, no-obligation consultation and find out how to get one area free. That's your stomach, inner thighs, even your arms, free. And with locations nationwide, there's a Sonobello near you. Get our best offer of the year. Book now and get one area free. Payment plans available. Call 888-317-1425. Now.
I was looking for